So today you joined me back at Woodlands Lakes in Thirsk. Instead of being on one of the match lakes where I've been previously, I've actually come on the original lake on the complex, Willigarth Lake. And today what I want to do is run through an approach that I've sort of developed over the years based around just getting me plenty of bites in winter, lots of little skimmers to catch, hopefully I might catch an odd carp as well, get the elastic stretched. But the way that I'm going to fish is a little bit different to what most people would do. You'd probably look to catch skimmers, put a bit of a bed of bait down and target the fish over there, topping up as and when you need to. My approach is really different to that. My point of view is lakes like this, they're shallow, they're silty and they're full of fish. So rather than put a lot of bait in and make the fish difficult to catch, I know they're in my peg anyway or they're very close by, I'm going to feed small amounts of bait, but bait that's going to attract them into my peg, draw them in, and then hopefully, because there's not much bait in my peg, they'll be nice and easy to catch. So bait wise, first of all, I've got some ground bait. Now that is Sonia Bait's Super Crush Expander with a little bit of F1 Dark added to it, just to give it sort of a nice smell, nice sweet smell that skimmers love. The reason for the crushed expander is that when I pot it in, and I'm going to be putting really small amounts in, there's lots of tiny particles there, things the fish can eat, but they've got to grub around to find it. It keeps them in the peg, holds them there where I want them, without me having to feed lots of bait to keep them there. That's the first thing I'm going to be feeding. And the next is just some plain fishery micro pellets. Now they've been soaked for sort of 2 hours, nice and soft, big, swelled up. Fish can eat them easily, and again I'm not going to be feeding many of them, so by soaking them up like that, making them big and visible, it just helps the fish to find them in your peg, helps to draw some fish into your peg again, and gives them something they can pick out. The only other thing I've got, a few little expander pellets there. These are a really old batch, I've had them years, but they're sort of a 3mm sort of size. They're meant to be 4s, but they don't really swell up much. But again, they just complement my feed bait that I'm going to be putting in, sort of them micro pellets, complement them really nicely, similar sort of size. And again, hopefully fish can just pick them out nicely over what I've got, and I'll get a nice quick bite off them. So when I'm going to be feeding that bit, I'm not going to look to feed it all that regular. And when I say tiny amounts, just clean my pot out. When I say tiny amounts of bait, I really do mean tiny amounts. Sort of, hopefully you can pick this up on the camera, but I'll maybe look to put that many micro pellets in, 4, 5 maybe. And tiniest little bit of ground bait. So as you can see, you can probably just see it squeezed in the corner of my pot there. Hardly anything. But like I said, them fish are in your peg anyway. You're not looking to draw them in, and if I can get them to come in and eat that amount of bait, then they're going to be really easy to catch. There's not loads of choice there for them. Like I said, there's them tiny little particles of expander that'll sort of keep the fish in the area, keep some bait on the bottom. It's not that easy for them to find, but loads of smell, loads of attraction. Now, not only will I look to feed them tiny amounts, I won't be feeding that every time I go in. I might look to catch 3, 4, 5 fish over that amount of bait. We'll see how that goes. Once I get fishing, I'll talk you through sort of how much I'm feeding, how often and why, give you a bit of an idea on that. But for now, I'm going to go and get fishing, catch some fish, and I'll talk you through what I'm doing as I go. Right, just want to quickly talk you through my rig that I've chosen for the day. Now, these little hand-sized sort of skimmers can be an absolute pain. You can miss lots of bites, get some silly indications, and your rig has to be dead right for them. So, starting off at this end, the elastic, I would normally use probably a 4 or 5 solid elastic. Instead, I've gone for a 5 Dura slip. Now, the reason for that being, there's a good chance of hooking a few carp, and I want to land them. Dura slip's sort of a hybrid style elastic that stretches like a hollow, but it's much lighter and doesn't react as badly to the cold as what some light hollows can do. Not quite as soft as what I would normally use, but it's going to give me a much better chance of landing them carp. Mainline, 0123 slick silk, and above my float I've got 3 number 9 back shots. Now they're really important because first of all they'll help me control my float if any wind or skim or anything like that picks up. Secondly, it just helps me keep everything above my float tight. I'm going to get lots of shy bites, little dips, that type of thing, and it means I can just pick up on my float on all of them because everything's already tight. I'm not going to have to lift very hard or very far to be in contact with my float and hook a fish. Float wise, prototype from Malman Floats, been using these quite a while now. A lot of people use this style of float probably for fishing things like maggots, but in good conditions like this it's perfect for these skimmers. There's not much resistance with a thin sort of body on it, slim body. It's got a solid plastic tip, 1.2mm. Now that's really important for me. There's no air trapped in it, which makes it more sensitive. And with this solid plastic, it settles exactly the same every single time. And I'm going to fish with that dotted to the tiniest pimple, so I struggle to see it almost, it's that dotted down. So it's really important that it settles exactly the same every time. It's not sticking out a little bit, it's not sinking, and that'll fish exactly how I want it. I've got a carbon stem. Again, I'd normally go for wire for pellet fishing, but because it's so calm, I don't really need the wire for stability, and that carbon just makes my float a little bit lighter and gives a little bit less resistance to any fish when they pick up the hook bait. Moving down, nice simple shot and pattern, bulk of number 11, sort of 10 or 11 inches from the hook, 2 number 11s below that. The last number 11 is actually on my hook length, it's about 3 inches from my hook. And that just helps with that light hook bait. When a fish picks up my bait, having a shot near the hook just magnifies everything and means that things show up a little bit more positively on my float. Hook length is 0.096 slick silk, and the hook is actually quite a big one. It's a size 16 F1 pellet. And although I'm only fishing a small expander on the hook, that holds the pellet well. I can cover most of the hook, but with it being bigger, the fish sort of struggle to spit it out a little bit. It gets caught a little bit better, meaning my bites are more positive, I miss less bites, and also because it's a big hook, I'll lose less fish. So a nice simple rig, but all of it's got a reason, most of it being sensitivity and shown up bites. So it works perfectly for this type of fishing, does everything I want of it, and to be honest, I've not even bothered setting anything else up. With the conditions how they are, nice and flat calm, I'm perfectly confident that this is the right rig to use. Cuts down on resistance, shows up my bites, and just perfect for the job. Right, so I've been fishing a while now, plenty of bites to be had, and I thought just a nice time to run through exactly what I'm doing in a bit more detail. So, putting that tiny bit of bait in my pot that I was speaking about before. I'm going to ship out, tap that in, and just lower my rig on it nice and slowly. Now, the real key is figuring out just how often you need to feed. There'll be times when that's sort of every second fish, there'll be times when it's every 5th fish. And that's different every session, and it can change through the session. So what I like to do is always have my bait in my pot, but I don't always feed it. This time, I'll lower it in, tap my bait in on top of my float. I'm going to sit and wait for a bite. Hopefully, it won't take too long. Today, it seems to be best to feed sort of probably every 2nd, every 3rd fish. There's a bite. So what I like to do, feed my bait like I did then, I'll catch a fish. When I go back in now, I'll just keep my bait in my pot, and I'll lower my rig in nice and slow, and I won't feed it, and see if I can just get a quick bite. Oh, nice little skimmer, probably 4 ounces. Now, you tend to find that if you can get a bite without feeding, it's much, much quicker. And sometimes you can sort of catch really good runs of fish doing that. You might catch 7, you might catch 8. Other days you might catch 2. Sometimes you even find you've got to feed every fish. By having my bait in my pot just ready to go, I don't have to feed it. It's wedged in there, it's not going anywhere. When I need to feed it, I'm not going to ship back to feed. So I'll do the same again, ship out. This time I'm not going to feed my bait. I've just fed, caught a fish pretty quickly. I hope there'll still be one there to catch again. I'm going to lower my rigging nice and slow, and generally the slower the better. You can often get a really quick bite as soon as it hits the bottom. So I'll lower it in nice and slow. And then I'm not going to feed anything. Just going to wait, see if I get a bite. I'm not going to wait forever. I'll give it sort of maybe a minute, see if I get a bite. If not, then I need to feed that little bit of bait again to try and draw a fish in. Now I imagine that these little skimmers, they're in your peg anyway, they're moving about, milling around, might be off the bottom, they might be away from your bait a little bit. You tap some in and it just sort of catches their attention, it draws them back in and gives you a chance to get a bite again. So I'll just wait and wait, give myself that minute or so. Like I said, if I haven't got a bite, I'm going to feed again. But again, just a tiny amount. I'm never going to feed that much bait that when one does come into my peg, I struggle to get a bite off it. So I'll turn my pot over now. Up, and I got a bite there just before I was going to feed. I never quite had time to tap that bait out. It probably took a minute to get a bite, but maybe even a little bit longer than a minute. But if you catch one as quick as that every time, you're soon on your way to a decent weight. That's just a little one again, probably another 4 or 5 ounces, but they all add up. Also fishing like this, just feeding pellets and ground bait. I'm feeding a bait that if a carp does come in my peg, give myself a very good chance of catching it. I've not got much bait on the bottom. I'm not going to have problems foul hooking it like you often can when you're doing things like loose feed and maggots or potting in amounts of ground bait. Same thing again. And I was thinking about feeding then, but obviously I caught one, so I'll just try it again, see if I can catch another one without feeding. Not in any rush to put that bait in. If you ship back with a fish every time, and things are going well, you don't need to go in and get one as soon as it settles. And fishing like this, you will get spells where sort of you go in, you lower your rigging, it'll go straight under. You go back in, lower your rigging, it'll go straight under. And you can easily catch 2, 3, 4 pound in sort of no time. There we go, that one was nice and quick. No time at all. Like you can see how quick the bites are coming now. They're nice and positive. I'm not missing any bites. Not having problems with liners, fish fizzing in my peg and that type of thing. At the minute they're only small. There's nothing to say. You're not suddenly going to get one £1, £2, catch a carp, and you're always building the weight. Again, lovely little fish. And the thing with these little skimmers, they can become really, really difficult to catch fishing in other ways. You know, when you've got a volume of bait in your peg, you can get lots of these small fish whizzing about in your peg. Become a real problem to catch. Fishing like this, for me, is the ideal way for them. Always getting bites, never getting problems with loads and loads of fish in your peg. You hit most bites. And when it's as cold as it has been, all this ice and snow we've had lately, freezing cold water temperatures, loads of rain, it's nice just to see the float going under and to be catching a few fish. So it really is just a nice way to approach your peg. You're never going to overcook it, you're never going to overdo it, put too much bait in, ruin your peg from the start. There's fish in your peg anyway, and by fishing like this, you're just drawing them in a few at a time, picking them off and catching them, and also always giving yourself a chance of a carp. So if you're in a match, the carp will be a bonus. There's another bite, nice and quick again, and that's 4 I've caught now. Just remember how tiny that amount of bait is that I've fed. I've caught 4, and I'll show you when I ship back. My bait's still in my pot. I haven't fed again. Yeah, them carp are a nice bonus if you can hook one. Make your day enjoyable, something to stretch the elastic out. And there's always a chance of a better skimmer. In a match, like I said, they're a nice sort of weight builder to add to the weight. So really is just a lovely way Lovely way to target them fish and make sure we keep getting plenty of bite. So I'll just try and catch one more without feeding. I'm getting to the point now where I'm thinking I've caught 4. It's not getting really, really quick. I'm feeling like I probably will have to end up feeding again. So some good signs of when to feed again. First of all, you quite often get to the point where your bites are coming really, really fast. Your lower rigging cells go straight under. If you catch a couple like that, probably going to be time to feed again. That's a good sign that they've cleared all the bait out of your peg. And you're catching them really fast, and that'll be sort of the end before a lull in the action. Perfect time to feed again just before it does slow. Another thing is, you might suddenly start sort of, and that might be a prime example, suddenly start missing an odd bite, getting an odd bite that looks like a liner. Or little indications, little lifts, little sort of your float dragging along the surface, something's not quite right. Often a sign that, again, not enough bait in your peg, and you just tap that a little bit in and it can sort of drag a few back to the bottom just where you want to catch them. And there's another one, look. So that's 6 now without feeding. But I might be 5, but I'm getting to the point now. I did miss a bite before that. There's an odd bubble coming up. I'm thinking very soon I'm probably going to have to feed again. So this is just something to always keep ticking through your mind. What's happening in my peg? What's going on under the water? At the minute, I can imagine them fish now starting to sort of whiz about my peg a bit, come off the bottom. There's not a lot left there for them to eat. This time I'll lower my rigging, see if I can get one really quick. If I don't get a bite within probably 10 or 15 seconds, I'll now look to tap that little bit of bait in that's still in my pot. Still not had to refill my pot. If I do hook one really quick, I'll probably look to maybe tap my bait in as soon as I've hooked it as well, because it's just feeling like it's time to put some bait in again. But it does just show how many fish you can catch over such a tiny amount of bait. If that's 5 I've had, I'm not sure how long in, probably 5 in. I would have thought less than 10 minutes. And even though it doesn't seem frantic, if you catch one of them fish every couple of minutes, you're probably well on your way to catching sort of 30 pound. Maybe a little bit more. And obviously in the depths of winter, that's a very, very nice day's fishing. So there's another one again, no feed. And that was a little bit like I said as well, when you get a bite quicker because your bait's sort of being cleared out a bit. Oh, that one was probably a bit big to swing. I maybe should have netted that one. Nice fish again. But I think this has just been the perfect example of just how quick you can actually catch them. Now, same again, I'll try and see if I get a really quick bite, and if not, I'll definitely tap this bait in this time, because I can't imagine there's a lot left there. And the last thing you want to do is just leave it a bit too long before you feed and end up with no fish in your peg, especially if it was a match situation. I'll lower the rig in. This time I'm going to turn my pot over ready, because I'm feeling like it's nearly time to feed. A couple more seconds. No signs yet, so I'll knock that bait out now. See it land there. And hopefully that'll just regather the fish. And I would like to think when I get a bite now, I'll then go on to catch another little run of fish. Again, I'll have that ball in my pot all the time, so if after 2 fish things die, I can feed it. If I can catch 5, 6, 7 like I've just done then, I can go through the same process again. And when I get to the point where I feel I need to put that bait in, I can. I just think that was a nice little demonstration, showing just how many fish you can catch without actually feeding very much bait at all, and just how little it takes to keep them in your peg. I mean, like I've spoke about already, just a lovely way to fish your peg in winter. Never going to ruin your peg by overfeeding, because there's a bite. Never going to ruin your peg by overfeeding, because you're not putting enough in to do that. No matter how hard the fishing is, you'll always get some bites like this if you're on the type of venue that holds these fish. And as well as that, if the water temperature just goes up a couple of degrees and the fishing is a bit better, you're fishing for bigger weights, you'll find your bites will just come so much quicker, and that just leads to you catching more fish. So same again, I've obviously tapped that bait out this time, hardly anything, get rid of some of it, and that's me ready to go again, start fishing for another little run of fish. So I'll just catch one more, and then I think it's about time to pack up. I feel the cold coming in now. The sky's starting to clear a bit, so I'm expecting another cold night. But it's been nice to get out on the bank and just get a few bites. Well, that is the end of my day today. Hopefully you've picked up a few little tips there and just got to see a nice little method to get you some bites while the weather's a bit rubbish, a bit cold, and hopefully it'll just put a few more fish in your net. Now, if you've enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all again next time.